Other comment at the beginning of the segment, and for a long time I was able to refer to my pool. I am seriously missing those times when I could refer to my pool. I froze walking over here today, so I am in no way prepared for this weather. That being said, I believe this segment will warm the soul today because we have a great conversation coming up with so many good people, so many good topics about Italian traditions and La Vigilia. Now, I've been a big fan of La Vigilia for a very long time. It's something I grew up with my family in upstate New York. When I came to Rhode Island, it seemed like La Vigilia was on steroids. I guess the best way to do it is that it was everywhere. And it wasn't just on Christmas Eve. And I really, really enjoyed that and liked that. And it's something that I've, for over 20 years, have been enjoying up in Rhode Island. So today's guests are going to cover some Italian traditions. All of my guests are, have a deep Italian background. Several of them have wonderful Italian accents, which I'm sure I'll be complimenting. But we're going to talk about Italian traditions that occur around this time of year, and then get into La Vigilia, the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Joining me today is Zac, and Zac is the cultural director for the Holy Ghost Church up on Federal Hill. And he's going to give us a little history on that church and also some history on La Vigilia and some of the great things that he has going on that tie into Italian customs. I also have Julia joining me, and she's a manager from Massimo and Panivino, two wonderful restaurants up on Federal Hill. Then I have John Morocco joining me from Cafe Dolce Vita, 25 years of being on Federal Hill, and 25 years of celebrating La Vigilia on Federal Hill. And then I have Armando. Now everybody knows Armando back and forth from social media. You're going to hear the decibel level go up when Armando joins me, just to give that forewarning out there. But I have Armando from Zuma coming in. So Gianfranco and Armando have joined me before, but Zac and Julia haven't. So we're going to kind of ease them into this segment of how we do things here. But it's an exciting segment. I'm very happy to have all these guests joining me, and I hope that you'll enjoy it as well. So that being said, got a great display already in place here. I'd like to bring in Zac. And he comes with wine, so you know he's prepared. How are you?
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So you got good wine already.
Of course. Just like
good shape. He's in good shape. Nice way to start.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to do while I'm pouring it, and look, guest barrels on Federal Hill too. All Federal Hill today. It's like it's a trend. I'm liking this. So I want to absolutely talk about the great things that you brought in because these are making my mouth water.
Yes.
But I really want to get into what you do for Holy Ghost on Federal Hill, which is an absolutely gorgeous church on Federal Hill. But tell us about being the cultural director for Holy Ghost.
So basically it's, my main goal and my main job from the beginning has been to preserve the culture of the Italian heritage at the church with integrity. So we really, our main aim is to keep the language alive in the parish, which is why we still have an Italian Mass at 11 o'clock every Sunday. We have a beautiful Italian choir. We do tons of weddings each year, but the main point that we really want to focus on when telling people about Holy Ghost Church is that we're so rooted in the community with our Italian lineage and with the many traditions that we have throughout the year, whether it's the St. Joseph Feast or our Christmas Eve concert or the many fundraisers that we do throughout the year, the parties, so everything that we have to kind of contribute to the culture of the Italians.
And I think that's extremely important, especially for Federal Hill, but it's also important for us to recognize that the area has become more diverse.
Correct,
I mean, it's the community in Federal Hill, the community throughout Providence and Rhode Island has become more diverse. And you guys also cater to that community as well.
Right.
And I think that there's some give and take with that community learning about the Italian traditions and coming into the church, right?
It's true. They've become very receptive to a lot of the traditions that we have, joining in with the Midnight Mass tradition, which is an Italian Catholic tradition that we have. They love St. Joseph's Day, any of the special Italian feasts that we have, like today's the Feast of St. Lucy. And we were teaching many of the children that we have within the parish are Hispanic children, but we teach them a lot about the Italian traditions so they can follow through upon these things and pass these down to another generation and another ethnic group as well, and they are able to respect these traditions as well.
Yeah, over the last couple of weeks here, we did a lot. We covered Thanksgiving, we covered preparing for Christmas, and last week we even covered Hanukkah. So I had Rabbi Dollinger in, and we covered Hanukkah, which is occurring right now. So I think that that's important, and I think that all of us on Federal Hill have done a good job of opening what is, was known as Little Italy to becoming a lot more diverse, and I think the church plays a large part in that.
Right.
Now, at your age, and he's obviously incredibly young, and looking at him, how did you get involved in wanting to do this? Because the culture, I mean, was your upbringing, your background, how did you get involved in this?
So I am a third generation Italian American. My family is kind of like removed from those Italian traditions through the years. And growing up, a lot of my friends are Italian, being in Cranston, you've had that whole Italian vibe going on.
Yeah.
I really wanted to know more about my culture, and I really wanted to make sure that these traditions were not lost with my grandparents or with my parents, that I was going to be able to preserve them for my children, for my grandchildren, hopefully my great-grandchildren, and to teach other people that aren't even Italian or that may be removed from their Italian lineage. So one of my jobs at the church as well is working with Italian ancestry. So we do offer an Italian ancestry workshop, and it kind of bridges the gap between their great-grandparents who came over in the 1800s and the people today. And so we want to keep the language alive, we want to keep the culture alive. I'm teaching myself Italian, we do Italian lessons at the church.
Really?
So we've come a long way, yeah. My grandparents don't speak Italian, but I'm speaking Italian. So we have a lot of, our community at Holy Ghost as well is mostly younger Italian people that came over probably around the 1970s to 1980s. So they still are very passionate about their culture. They have the language there, and then we also have a lot of younger Italian people that are coming over now in their 20s.
And Holy Ghost has been there since the late 1800s.
1889, we're the first Italian national parish in the state of Rhode Island. We're one of the oldest in the country. And the architecture, if anyone has ever not been, I really recommend you to stop by. We do offer tours, but if you ever come by throughout the day and I'm there, I will be happy to show you guys around the church. It's a beautiful Romanesque style.
You just got a personal invitation
Yeah.
for Tour Holy Ghost. That's
Yep.
fantastic.
Yep.
And I think that's great that you're carrying on those traditions, and congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
Now, I would be remiss if I did not give a nice shout out to Cindy Salvato, who is a very good friend and does fantastic tours of Federal Hill on a regular basis, that referred me over to Zach. And I understand that she's kind of tutoring you and helping you with some of that history of Federal Hill as well, right?
Yes, so in 2018 I will be starting my own Federal Hill tours. It'll be under the name Turismo, which is tourism in Italian,
Yep.
and we'll be doing historical and culinary tours of Federal Hill.
Really? In 2018?
Yes, 2018.
Do you have a time frame, first quarter?
Hopefully it'll be up at New Year's, the website will be up, we'll have social media going, and you'll be able to start booking then.
So you got an invitation to the church, and now you just found out you got new tours that can happen for Federal Hill. And we're gonna have to make sure our good friends at the Convention Visitors Bureau take care of you,
Thank you.
because they love knowing these types of things.
Yes.
So, we got his background, we got some good stuff on the church, a great announcement, actually, an invitation and an announcement. Now, we gotta get into La Vigilia and some of the other traditions that are going on. But first, let's talk about some of the things you brought here. Let's start with the
Right.
wine, because I'm gonna start having some of this.
So I always start with a bottle of wine because every year, me and my grandfather prepared the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Ever since I was a little boy, maybe like 3 years old, I would go over to my grandparents' house, 8 o'clock in the morning, crack open a bottle of homemade wine, and just, be a little kid. My grandfather would pour it in a little bicchierino for me.
Yeah.
And we would just start, preparing the fishes, sipping wine, tasting, throughout the day. We probably would have like half the amount of smelts that we had prepared from the morning because we ate them all
You
throughout
ate them
the
all
day.
during the day.
Yep.
That's
But
awesome.
so what I'd like to bring in
Well,
is
cheers to you.
thank you very much. I brought in a couple of my favorites. I love dried figs. Best way to start off with a nice glass of wine, some figs.
Look at these things. These things, the aroma on these already is driving me crazy. I told him the second he walked in.
Yeah. In Italian, my grandparents refer to them as fichi secchi, which is dried figs, and they're very popular around Christmas time or all throughout the year, which pair very well with a nice. This is fig and chocolate panettone. It's one of the new flavors from GoLocal, which I was really happy about that they provided this year in the United States because it's an awesome panettone. And then I also brought in some mixed nuts, which are very popular in the Italian culture and very popular after your dinner snack, along with some torrone. You can't go wrong. Every year it's a tradition in my family. Me and my grandfather, we prepare the 7 fishes. All day long, it's an all-day affair. We have about 30, 40 people come over the house. Then we start eating, opening up gifts, midnight mass at Holy Ghost in Italian and English, and the beautiful Christmas concert that
So
we
that
have.
mass is Italian and English?
It is Italian and English, yep.
Fantastic.
Yep, and we have
So,
a beautiful Italian choir.
From
there.
your
Yeah.
perspective, and you're saying you grew up
Mhm.
with it similar to what I did, and I
Yeah.
just found out that I have somebody talking to me about eels in a bathtub, people
Mhm.
sending me comments,
Yeah.
and my father's just now watching, and I grew up with it as well. But from your background of growing up, and from what you know from the church, what's the origin of La Vigilia?
So basically, it really differs on where the people came from in Italy. It's mostly in the seaside towns or southern Italy where La Vigilia started. My family being from central to southern Italy, part of my family observed the 7 fishes. Part of my family had a roast pork because they didn't have access to the seafood, correct. But as far as the 7 fishes, a lot of people say it stems from the 7 days of the week, the 7 deadly sins, the 7 sacraments. Other people, they have 12 fish to celebrate the apostles, or they put 13 in for Jesus, or they take Judas out, so they do have 12 fishes. So it really depends. It has a very religious origin, the 7 fishes, because we are supposed to abstain from eating meat the
Right.
day before Christ's birth.
Right.
Mhm.
And, you're going to hear from the guests that have coming in from the restaurants that it's a celebration that they extend throughout the month
Mhm.
of December. So where it's traditional Christmas Eve to have it at home with families,
Right.
this is an opportunity for you to go out and try those things. I also think it's a good way to experiment with it. So if you
Correct.
don't know or you're not familiar with the custom to go to these restaurants and be able to have a way to experiment and try the different seafoods that are out there. I mean, I can tell you mine has expanded beyond 7 the last couple of years. I get closer to 9 or 10 sometimes, thanks to my mother-in-law, where we have, you know, additions that seem to pop up all the time from the seafood perspective. And it seems like you were saying that, you know, the northern part of Italy is not as, it's not as common.
Right. Italy almost has like 3 different types of Christmases. They celebrate San Nicola, San Lucia, they have Babbo Natale, they have La Befana. So all throughout Italy, these are all different dates as well. San Nicola is the 6th of December, Santa Lucia is today, Babbo Natale is the 24th, and then we have the Epiphany with La Befana.
Right.
Yeah, so
those traditions, those extra traditions outside of La Vigilia, and thank you for explaining the origins, because I think a lot of people want to know that, and it's important to understand there are variations. It's not one set way when it comes to La Vigilia, but so the Epiphany, those traditions, do you find that people are finding ways to celebrate them more here in the United States?
In my family, right, ever since I was a child, every year my grandmother would celebrate the Epiphany with us. We'd have like a special second Christmas almost. And my grandmother would dress up as La Befana, the Christmas witch.
That's awesome.
And drop off the gifts for us. And it was just a really cool way to stem some more of that Italian culture into the holiday season. Because it's nice to have one Christmas, but it's even better to have 2 Christmases.
Absolutely.
So the food continues, the gifts continue. We sing a lot of Italian carols on the Epiphany, and my grandmother tells the story of La Befana. So it's a really nice holiday for us all to enjoy as a family.
It's fantastic. Yeah. So you mentioned at Holy Ghost, what you're doing is that there's a way for people to take Italian classes.
Yes.
And there's a way for people to do the tours and stuff. Is there a way for people to be more involved beyond that, to kind of learn about these traditions? Is there other things that happen?
So part of what we're trying to come up with is an Italian cultural society at Holy Ghost, which is dedicated to, even if you can't make it to Mass every Sunday, but you're there once a month, you partake in some of these things that we have going on, maybe the Italian Masses or joining the Italian choir. So people are able to maybe get closer to their Italian roots. So we're trying to work on a society that really can emulate all those things. We do have a society there that meets every Friday night. They're all first and second generation Italians. A lot of them are from Italy. It's called the Circolo. They meet every Friday. They play scopa. They have, panettone and prosecco. They have, roasted chestnuts around Christmas time. So they really do celebrate the culture. But we're trying to start something up for a younger generation of Italian people that want to connect with their roots.
I think that's a fantastic idea. So if that happens, or when that happens, I should say, please let us know so that we can get that out there as well. Because I think the work that you're doing is fantastic, especially at your age. I'm glad that Cindy's assisting you. I'm glad that the church supports you over there, because the background that you just brought us in 11 or 12 minutes was excellent. Thank you again for joining us today, and I'll be having one of these for sure when I get off the air. We'll take some great pictures of them. But thank you very much, Zac.
Thank you very much.
Greatly appreciate it.
Buon
Beautiful
Natale.
stuff. Buon Natale to you as well.